What about now? It's time to rock with the biggity back bumble. What about now? It's time to rock with the biggity back bumble. Bump to the bump to the bump to the bass. Bump to the bump to the bumble. Bump to the bump to the bump to the bass. Bump to the bump to the bumble. Bump to the bump to the bump to the bass. Bump to the bump to the bumble. Bump to the bump to the bump to the bass. Bump to the bump to the bumble. Bump to the boot to the boot to the boot boot. Bump to the bass to the bass bass. Bump to the boot to the boot to the boot.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 115 of Nintendo Unleashed. We are sorry we missed a week again last week, but you know, busy life
happens.
And when we would have recorded last week, there was only our first two news topics we have here, which wouldn't have made a very exciting episode anyway. And then a major thing happened after we would have recorded, so I guess it's kind of good anyway. But whatever. Anyway, my name's Connor. I'm here with Noah.
Hi guys, I'm in a hotel. I think this is my first ever episode I haven't recorded at home. Actually, no, I've recorded one that's not at home. This is my first hotel one, so there you go.
Wasn't there one, it was like after Nintendo's E3 or something a few years ago?
Oh yeah, I was at my grandparents' house in Florida then.
Oh, I just remember for some reason we felt the need to record it like
very late.
Yeah, like really late, and I think both Tyler and BMAC were on that, and you were like talking really quietly, and then those two, of course, are really loud people, so you were kind of droned out.
Right.
But 5 people is kind of a little much for a podcast. I mean, like one of our shorter podcasts.
Right.
If we were doing like a 3-hour podcast, then I think that would be fine. But anyway, this is Nintendo Unleashed is Blazekick's weekly kind of Nintendo podcast, where we talk about the latest Nintendo news and give our thoughts and opinions. And our first order of business is what we've been playing these past, I guess, 2 weeks.
Yeah, at this point. So for me, I picked up Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I've been playing quite a bit of that. I've gotten to play at school with friends. It was actually really cool because there was one day where I was in my school's essentially library, and I didn't really have any work I needed to get done, and I saw someone walking over to a table holding his Switch, and so I was like, "Hey, do you have Mario Kart?" And he said, "Yeah." And so then I brought my Switch over, and another person had a Switch there, and he had Mario Kart as well. And so we played together in tabletop mode wirelessly with 2 people on each Switch, so we had 6 players going wireless, and it worked. It worked really nice. Surprisingly, there was no connection issues or anything. I had read some people were having issues with like local wireless connection stuff, but there were no issues there. You know, sideways Joy-Cons. Without the straps, it's tough, but I've actually started using the straps a lot recently. I was scared to use them at first because I'd heard so much about, they're so tough to get off, but it's not as tough as I had anticipated. So that's been fun, and I got to do that essentially 2 days in a row. So I've been doing plenty of Mario Kart and continuing with Breath of the Wild as well. I think I've got 120 hours at this point. So that's it for me.
So I've been continuing my Breath of the Wild quest. I have 5 shrines remaining. I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago or episodes ago that I was using a guide for the shrines, and according to the guide I only have 3 left, so I'm gonna have to figure out which 2 I missed.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Well I know I missed the what's it called, Blood Moon Shrine, because I can't get a Blood Moon. And the one time a Blood Moon finally showed up, I like decked out in the dark gear, whatever it's called, that raises your movement speed at night, and I drank a speed elixir because the closest teleportation thing, I'm pretty sure you can make it at like max speed like that, but I fell off a cliff, so I didn't get to see if I could make it. But yeah, so I guess I'm gonna have to figure out which shrines I missed. Noah kind of described one I might have missed, but
Mhm.
I'm not totally sure because at that point, unless they really stood out, they kind of all mixed together.
Right. And where do you have to go for the Blood Moon one? Because I haven't come across that. What's like the general area where you accept that?
It's in the Thunder something tower.
Oh,
It's
so it's
like
by one of them.
it's not near a tower, but it's in the region where like the tower is in the middle of a lake, and there's a bunch of electric
Oh, right. Yeah,
Lizalvos.
no. I know the one you mean. So it's near there. Okay.
And then there's like a stable in that area, and it's on a plateau a little bit north of that stable.
Okay.
The Rito that plays his accordions nearby and gives you the shrine quest relating to it. But you like have to stand on the shrine platform with no clothes on during a blood moon.
Very intricate. I know there's a guy at the Dueling Peaks stable who talks about blood moons.
Yeah, I was trying him for a while, but I got tired of constantly sitting by fire, wait till noon. Hey, it's a full moon tonight. Sit by fire, wait till noon. It's a new moon tonight. Sit by fire, wait till noon. It's a 17-day moon or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I just got kind of tired of doing that over and over again.
Right. Yeah, the issue with that is that like through your natural play of the game, you're not really aiming to get blood moon, so it's almost like you have to wait for it to happen at the right time, which can be, can be kind of annoying, but still a cool idea. I haven't yet done that when you were talking about where the shrine forms that shadow or whatever, or rather the tower, but I've unlocked that quest, just haven't done it yet. And you have to like pierce the stone or whatever with your arrow.
Yeah. And there's another interesting one like that where you like there's a shrine thing. I forget what they're called, but the things that like you sometimes have to do stuff with them to activate a shrine.
Like those little pedestal type things, whatever they're
Yeah.
called. Yeah.
There's like one of those on the side of a mountain, and there's like a gorge in between the closest place you can get to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to like get a shadow of a snowball to touch that the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, nice.
I mean, there's some pretty interesting ones.
One of
There's
my favorites
also
is
some weird ones that make no sense, which are mostly like blessing ones. Because like there was one blessing where you had to like carry a snowball through the desert.
Yeah, I think I did that one.
Yeah, but it doesn't really make sense for that to be a blessing, considering why, like, if that person happened to not need a drink, then the god would basically, or deity, whatever they're monks, right?
I couldn't tell you. Oh, the guys in the shrine?
Yeah,
I actually don't know.
I think
I
they're
think they're just spirits.
maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever they are, he'd basically just be giving you a free orb if that person didn't need a drink.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I've almost done so close, and then I'll go fight Ganon, and then I guess I'm probably not gonna hunt Korok seeds, and I don't think I'm gonna buy the DLC, so guess I'll be done.
Right.
And today I bought the Chase McCain Lego Dimensions figure, and I've played a little bit of that, not too much yet. I was just playing it while waiting for Noah. And of course, I also played Love Live.
Very nice. Cool. So as usual, I'm going to dive into this week's Nintendo download. I'm also going to talk about a few of the games that came out last week since we didn't cover that. So on the Switch eShop this week, NBA Playgrounds, which looks sort of reminiscent of NBA Jam. It's a $20 download. I don't believe there's a retail version. Blazing Star, which is, again, continuing the streak of Neo Geo games available. Apparently this one's like a shooter, as in like a... Actually, I'm not entirely sure, but I know it involves shooting.
Wow, that's certainly not the most common type of game on the Neo Geo.
Not at all. There's a Blaster Master Zero demo on the new 3DS. There's Triple Breakout. I feel like we keep having Breakout games coming out.
Yeah, and they keep being exclusive to the new 3DS for some reason.
This is obviously Breakout needs that cutting edge technology to succeed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you said that exact line like last time you were on.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's just too good of a joke. Can't pass it up. And I mentioned last week, Tumbleseed, I believe, came out for Switch eShop. Reason I want to mention it, that game looks very cool. I watched a bunch of gameplay. It's essentially, a roguelike game where, traditionally those games you're shooting, but now this one you're sort of like rolling through almost a maze-like structure. It looks very interesting. So, pick of the week. I mean, I'm gonna have to say Tumbleseed, even though it's last week. That's kind of cheating, but I don't care. It's because what I've seen of that game looks so charming and awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead and say Tumbleseed.
I'm gonna say Blaze Star or Blazing Star because that's almost like Blaze Kick.
Oh, that's a good point. It's like they were thinking about us when they developed that one, huh?
Us. Whenever that game came out, I think the Neo Geo was like 80s. So they predicted.
You're right. I mean, I would imagine at that point they had time travel, and they were able to listen to our show and think, how can we pay homage to these internet stars? And here we are now.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess mission accomplished, guys. Anyway, diving into some of our news. So a Splatoon manga, I believe this was first shown for Japan, like back when the original game first came out.
Yeah.
And now I guess it's being published in English by Viz Media.
Late 2017 is the earliest date. I think Viz stuff is usually like 4 months after it's first announced is when they release it. So that would be about September, October. I mean, it kind of sucks that they'll miss the Splatoon 2 hype train, but I mean, it will still be going. I mean, it kind of sucks they don't like get it out the same day as Splatoon 2 or something.
No, I agree. That would be a very good tie-in. Even though it's not really based on Splatoon 2, that would still be a good promo. But regardless, assuming they can keep the Splatoon momentum going the same way they did with the first game with free expansions, I think it'll still pay off for them, So, and especially with the way their games are sort of like these evergreen titles, if you will, it should boost sales at the time and that kind of thing.
I think Viz said Yokai Watch was one of their more successful manga of 2015. I think we covered that, or maybe it was 2016, which was interesting because I'm pretty sure we also covered that the first Yokai Watch game flopped in North America. So I'm not really sure what that would mean for Splatoon. I know Pokemon, the manga, does fairly well here, but the games also do really well. So
yeah, I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. Obviously the popularity of Splatoon in Japan is like incredible. I've sort of had obviously I know it's like I guess I have a hard time telling how big it is in the US. Because when the game was out, I got so absorbed in it that I was certainly more invested than your average player. So the question is, how invested will the average fan be? I guess we're gonna find out.
It was pretty big, at least on the internet.
Tons of fan art.
I think most, I don't remember seeing an attachment rate stat, but I would guess most Wii U owners got it.
Right. I think in Japan it had like the second highest attach rate of any game or something like that.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. And so if there was a similar
Splatoon.
Yeah. And obviously, it may have been slightly held back by the Wii U, but regardless, pretty much everyone in the Wii U fan base was very into the game. And so, I would expect hopefully a similar success this time around. Obviously, it's not really a new concept anymore, but, it's more Splatoon, and if that's what folks are looking for, there you have it. I sound very tired. I apologize. That would be an accurate statement. I am tired. Anyway, so moving on. Nintendo is yet to announce their full E3 plans, but we do know this one tidbit of information, and that is that they will not be hosting a large-scale press conference. This doesn't come as a massive surprise, as they haven't held one since, 2012?
Yeah.
Now,
No, did they
I
do a
think
2013 one?
I think 2013 was their first digital event. 2012 was the
Oh, right,
fireworks.
because
2012 was the
2012 was when
fireworks.
the Wii U launched. Yeah.
Fireworks, yeah. Um, and I guess the only surprising thing about this is, they did their live Switch event in January,
Mhm.
which is the first big live event they'd done in a long time. So I guess maybe for that reason, some people expected them to go with another live event, but not all aspects of that event went terribly well. So maybe they're steering clear for that reason. Maybe they're completely unrelated. Who knows? But regardless, now we know for sure they'll likely be pursuing the similar Nintendo Direct / digital event path that they've taken in the past.
Yeah, I hope they do that again and not just Treehouse Live, because Treehouse Live's fun and all, but I don't really have time to sit here all day for tidbits on potential tidbits on games.
Right. Yeah, whereas a conference, the information is very condensed and, it's all
Yeah,
new stuff.
and if something catches my interest in that, then I can make sure to be watching Twitter or whatever for, hey, we're showing this game now. Oh, and I can be like, oh, that looked interesting, and tune in or watch the
Right.
YouTube archive if I'm unable to tune in later.
As
But
opposed to watching 2 hours of Metroid Blast Ball in hopes that they're going to announce a new tidbit during it. Yeah. So yeah, I think, and I think we've talked about this before, how Nintendo Directs usually go pretty well just because they're scripted and that kind of thing. It always runs smoothly, with the exception of those terrible connection issues on the first Nintendo digital event. I don't know if you remember that. The stream, the buffer was so bad. That was very frustrating, especially during Smash.
And also not last year, was it last year? When we have the digital events compared to the live events, for people at home, it makes no difference whatsoever. You don't hear audience cheering, but do you really need to hear audience cheering to think that the game looked good or whatever?
Yeah.
But when it's live, there can be technical difficulties like Skyward Sword.
That hurt that game quite a bit.
Barely worked, which some people might argue is an accurate representation of the game, but there's other things like at Sony's conference when Uncharted 4 glitched up and they had to reboot the demo because he couldn't move.
Right, things happen.
Then they made a trophy called Stage Fright, where if you stand still in that area for 15 seconds or something, you get a trophy.
Nice.
But so personally, I prefer the digital events.
Right. And while I would argue that there are some moments that stand out from live events, like that 2004 Twilight Princess reaction, moments like that are so few and far between that, as a whole, the consistency of Nintendo Directs is, to me, preferable. Just because you know what you're getting, there aren't any major blunders, and you still get that excitement, so.
Plus the amount of people that stream their live reactions and then you can archive it. You can find those hype moments anyway.
Right. Yeah. It's not like you're not going to see people reacting. If that's what you enjoy about, live presentations, people still film, the Nintendo store in New York, the reactions of them to E3. That's something I watch every year. So that's how I get my fix, as it were. So it's not like you're losing that piece of it.
Or if you really want to see them that much, you could just go on Twitch.
That too. Go just look at the chat.
Not even the chat. Tons of people stream the direct and themselves at the same time while the direct's happening.
Though the chat is rather fun. It's a good source of insanity during announcements. Even though that chat can be, interesting at times. But regardless. Anyway, I think we're going to move on. We have some news on the new Fire Emblem game for 3DS, specifically news on the season pass.
I'd just like to
Um,
mention if we did do an
yeah.
episode last week, that's where the episode would have ended.
Right.
So,
So there you have it. Now you hopefully understand. Anyway, yeah. So Fire Emblem. What is the name of this game? Fire Emblem
Echoes,
Shadow
of Valencia,
something like that. This game comes out for 3DS in May, this month, right? And now we know details on the season pass for the game. So it'll cost. Well, no, I haven't looked specifically into the details of the content, but I imagine it'll be similar to previous 3DS Fire Emblems, where really your new content primarily just consists of, new maps, that kind of thing, new weapons, etc. Now, what's interesting, this is actually priced at $35, which is $5 less than the base game. Now, obviously, season passes aren't unheard of, but it's usually
Where do you see that price? I see $44.99.
44. Oh, I thought you said $34.99. Wow, if it costs more than,
$44.99.
my bad then. Wow. So assuming it costs more than the game, that's even crazier than I thought. Because
And
usually passes don't cost that much.
Nintendo says it contains 22 pieces of content. You could buy the 5 packs separate, which are Fledgling Warriors with 2 maps and a dungeon on May 19th. Undaunted Heroes, $9.99. The first one was $7.99. Two new maps, another dungeon, and a challenge, or pitched as a challenge for more seasoned heroes. Pack 3 is $14.99. Also comes out May 25th, and includes mysterious dungeons and upgrades to characters and exclusive classes that didn't appear in the main game. That's worded kind of weirdly. Pack 4 is June 1st for $12.99. It's a prologue pack with new content, new voice acting, new story content, new voice acting, and a collection of challenging maps.
Nice.
With new support conversations between selected heroes. Pack 5 is $5.99 with no launch date yet, and everything else is to be announced. If you buy everything separately, that would be $51.95. So the season pass is a discount, but
wow, it still costs more than the game. There you
yeah.
have it. So as I was sitting there listening to you list that stuff off, I was sort of closing my eyes and contemplating the nature of DLC. And what came to me was that, all of this content, the game has been out in Japan for months. Sure, they could put it in. Now, obviously, one could quickly jump to the conclusion, well, they want to make the money, right? That's obviously, they're a business. They can't not make money, right? But another interesting thing which just came to mind for me was that when these new games come out, people who are sharing them on social media, when a new game comes out, everyone experiences it at different rates and shares it at different rates, right? Like for me, Breath of the Wild, there are people who finished it within the first 4 days. I'm like, you're insane. How'd you do this? Meanwhile, I've had the game for 2 months and I have not beaten it yet. So, hey, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them going quickly. It's just a reality that different people play at different paces. So what's cool about DLC is it's essentially like a fresh start. Like everyone's on the same page, It's almost like a refresher. Like, okay, we're all experiencing this new together. So just an interesting potential merit there.
Seems weird that a remake of a game from the Famicom is packed with DLC, including day one DLC.
Oh, that's a good point. I completely forgot that it was a.
Because Pack 1 comes out the same day as the game on May 19th. So there is day one DLC here on a Famicom remake.
That would be like if they released, Super Mario Bros. If they release a new version, it's like, oh, worlds 9 and 10. What do you know?
I'm assuming this content is not cut from the original game because they keep saying new maps, new dungeon. So I'm assuming it's not cut and it is brand new content, but still. Also, do we know what the amiibo even do in this game? The 2 new amiibo?
I couldn't tell you. They probably just give you money or something stupid. Seems to be the general trend. Even in Breath of the Wild, they just give you arrows and stuff. It's what the heck?
Yeah.
Anyway, Nintendo made a really bizarre announcement this week. They announced a new piece of hardware, which I don't think anyone saw coming. They announced the new Nintendo 2DS XL.
They
Now,
decided they weren't done with the confusing names after people had praised the Switch for its direct name that's not at all confusing.
New direction, and now here we are again in our convoluted Nintendo 3DS family of systems. So what's so funny about this? When the 2DS was first announced, and I think some people can probably relate to this. I myself, at first, I doubted it. Like it was just such a ridiculous idea. It felt like a prank, It felt like an April Fool's prank.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, it was real. Now, I actually had the same thought. Because my first exposure to this, I saw someone post a screenshot of the YouTube video, and it had like 0 views because they were like, I guess, one of the first people to click on it. And my first comment, I replied to them like, "Is this real? Like, what am I seeing right now?" Like, I was almost too in disbelief to actually check their channel. But then sure enough, I saw other people posting like, "Oh my god, why?" the systems they already released were just so convoluted. Like the new 3DS and the new 3DS XL, like that was convoluted in of itself. Like having new as your descriptor to show that it's the most updated form is just such a strange, almost indirect idea, right?
Yeah.
And now they're just applying that concept to the 2DS, and it's like, okay, well the new 2DS XL has all the same features except the new 3DS XL's 3D, but it can still play all the 3DS games in 2D, and it can also play DS games, and and it can play new 3DS only games, even though it's a new 2DS. It gets hairy. I don't know. I mean, look, it looks really nice. From what I've seen, hands-on previews went live today. I really wish America was getting that like white and orange model. It reminds me of like a creamsicle. I really think that's a beautiful model. Not a huge fan of like the turquoise personally, but it still looks. I mean, the hardware looks nice. I'm just not a big fan of that color scheme. Whereas that color scheme, which for now seems exclusive to Japan, yeah, I would pick that thing up in an instant. And so I don't know. I mean, the 3DS clearly is, I guess, still selling because it got huge momentum from Pokemon Go. Uh, and I guess this is a good option because the 2DS is $80, comes with Mario Kart, very much a budget system, whereas the new 3DS and new 3DS XL are what, 200, and they don't come with a game. And this is 150, if I recall. It doesn't come with a game, so it's $50 less than the new 3DS XL. The only difference is, you don't have the 3D, and like maybe slightly less battery, but not really big enough of a difference to justify the price tag. So really, you're just losing 3D, and for $50, I mean, if you're looking to save that money and maybe put it towards a game or something, I'd say that's probably worth it because less and less games are using the 3D feature, and even for those that are, not as many people are using the 3D in them. So it seems like an okay product. What do you think? I just went on for a while, didn't I?
Well, whenever a hardware revision is announced, which I mean is mostly Nintendo, because like
Right.
Microsoft and Sony do like one each, and it's usually just a slimmer version or a more powerful version or something. But I always try and think, who is this for? So like with the 3DS XL, it was kind of meant for like an upgrade type thing, I think, at least, because it had better 3D, well, bigger 3D. What's it called? Target? Like you can
viewing
look.
angle?
Yeah, viewing angle. That's it. It had a bigger viewing angle. It was more comfortable to hold for longer periods of time. So I think that one was more intended as an upgrade, or potentially because I think it came out about maybe a year before Pokemon X and Y.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe as kind of like a boost for that, or like trying to, hey, you could buy this instead. It's more comfortable. Then the 2DS was obviously meant for kids, as with the cheap price. Even when it launched, I think it was $99 when it launched without a game.
Yeah.
So, and it had bright colors, looked kind of like a Fisher Price toy. didn't have the clamshell, so didn't have to worry about that snapping, and didn't have the 3D, which was worrisome for kids. I think it was under 7.
Yeah.
So, that's for kids. Then the new 3DS and new 3DS XL were meant as kind of upgrades again because they had more power, although that wasn't really used. I think 2 games and a bunch of breakout clones use it. Use it in air quotes. Then, but this, I can't figure out what it's for.
Right. So here's what I'm thinking. 2 potential big options. So one, kids who are maybe 8, 9 and have had a 2DS for a couple of years and want to upgrade. Because I'd say this is the next logical step. If they don't really want the 3D, yeah, with this you're going to be able to play more games. You're going to have more abilities to control. You're going to get that cool clamshell design, which allows for added portability. So I would say it's a cool upgrade for kids who have a 2DS already. I would also say it's good for people who are, still want to get on board with the 3DS because let's face it, there are still new games coming out. And there's a big library to, keep playing. I would say anyone who's planning on picking up, a 3DS from now, and anywhere into the foreseeable future, unless you really want the 3D, this seems like the smartest option to me, just because you get all the benefits of the new systems minus that 3D piece, and it looks really like a nice piece of hardware. It's not a ton more expensive than the 2DS, the standard 2DS. So I guess just for anyone going forward, this just seems like the smartest model to pick up from the value perspective, as well as, like I said, upgrading for younger 2DS owners. So that's just what I think about it.
I'm not really sure about new purchases though, because I could be wrong, but I can't imagine there being that many people left that didn't jump on the 3DS with the Animal Crossing craze, the Pokemon craze, but really want Fire Emblem, Hey Pikmin, Miitopia, and
Ever Oasis.
Ever Oasis.
Yeah.
Sure, there's people who have wanted a 3DS for a while and maybe don't have a lot of money, but they probably bought a 2DS already then. And if they don't have a lot of money, they're probably not the type to want or to upgrade to the latest and greatest, and they don't really care that they can't play the Binding of Isaac and Xenoblade and Breakout. And then for kids, I don't really know. Of course, everyone's family situation is different, but
right.
For even a 10-year-old, just feels like a really expensive gift. Unless it's a Christmas present, but
right,
we're
I would think Christmas present.
But it launched it's launching June, I think. Yeah. And that's way before Christmas, 6 months.
Oh, that's a good point. So you were saying you don't think many more people will jump on the 3DS train. I don't know. I guess my only argument would be as I mentioned earlier, a lot of Nintendo software sort of has that evergreen quality to it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I might even predict, with the Switch drawing in at least seemingly a lot of people who haven't owned a Nintendo system in a long time, because the 3DS, because Nintendo's still supporting 3DS, maybe people who picked up a Switch as their first Nintendo system since the N64 will also want to pick up a 3DS to try out some of their other recent titles. And in that case, I would say this system is probably best for them because again, if they bought the Switch, they probably don't care about the 3D, and they probably want something nicer than a 2DS. So it seems like a good balance for that.
And also, I don't think we actually reported on this, but Reggie was interviewed about, I don't know if it was specifically about the NES, but someone asked him about the NES Mini Classic. What's it called? I can never remember.
It's called something different everywhere.
Great.
NES Mini will do.
Okay, the NES Mini being discontinued, and he said it was because Nintendo couldn't keep up with production or something. Like they wanted to produce or put the resources for producing elsewhere. And back when the NES Mini was announced, I was pretty sure they had mentioned limited edition or limited release. Like I was fairly certain they had said that, but now that it appears they halted production for a product tons of people still wanted for the new 2DS, because this was announced right after they said basically we're stopping it because we don't have enough resources to produce.
Right.
For something that, like, for all we like, Nintendo probably would have been fine without this. Like, even if people do hop on the new 2DS XL bandwagon, like, I don't think that many people are gonna buy it that wouldn't have bought a new 3DS or a 2DS or something.
That's true. I guess the other thing you consider, obviously it's not nearly as large of an audience, but sort of like that core Nintendo base who essentially buys every revision, aka ARMS. And that certainly is a small crowd, but just another thing to consider. But I do agree with your earlier statement that none of the 3DS software they're releasing this year is really gonna, I think, move systems.
Unless they're like keeping Pokemon to
Right,
3DS.
which actually at this point wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if Pokemon Stars or whatever is a thing for 3DS later this year. Again, we have no like confirmation or anything. That's speculation. But if they do have a Pokemon lined up, I could see that working out for them.
Yeah, so unless they like keep Pokemon and maybe find some other like Grezzo or something,
Right.
that every once in a while, every couple of years can pump out a new, not new 3DS specifically, but a 3DS game.
Right.
Until they decide to eventually retire it, because I mean this thing's like, I think it came out in
2011. What's this?
Way off.
What system we talking?
3DS.
Yeah, that was 2011.
Okay, so this thing's getting
up
old there. It's like 7.
6. Well, now it's 6 years old.
I'm bad at mental math. Sorry.
Yeah, 6 years old. The DS was released 2004, right?
Yeah.
And that made it to 2011. Now, so that was a 7-year run, right? Now the 3DS at this point has had a 6-year run. Now the DS was an absolute runaway success. The 3DS has been a success, but not as big of a success, right? So at this point, I would say I don't see the 3DS continuing, let's say, beyond. I don't know. I just can't see. I guess I can't see them making another 3DS revision after this one. But I said the same thing about the new 3DS, so I really don't know.
And everyone thought they were gonna just can the 3DS when they released the Switch.
Right, that didn't happen.
And it appears they might be slowing down development on it, but they aren't just stopping it.
Yeah, certainly not a screeching halt by any.
But I mean, the DS also still had games. Like in 2012, it got
Black and White 2, right?
Yeah, Black and White 2, and I think late 2011, maybe 2012, it got Kirby Mass Attack.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So it still got some games, but the 3DS was also backwards compatible. So if you had gotten rid of your 3DS or your DS for a 3DS, or traded in, not got rid of,
yeah,
then you could still play these new games. However, most people probably didn't trade in their 3DS for a Switch. It was probably a Wii U.
Right.
So
yeah, no, that's another good point. It definitely feels like the DS and the 3DS are definitely closer cousins than, say, the 3DS and the Switch. So it almost feels unprecedented because, the Switch is in this weird category where, is it really handheld? It's not really something we've seen from Nintendo. So I think it's just going to have to be a wait and see type situation, But I think, at least they've surprised me because, they were saying, oh, we're going to continue supporting the 3DS. And a lot of people really thought they were bluffing there.
Yeah, because they said they're going to keep supporting the Wii U, and then it got like one game after they
immediately cancel production. So, who knows? They might continue it through 2017 and kind of stop in 2018. It might sort of maybe depend on how well their software this year does. Again, we really don't know for certain. This is all sort of speculation on my part. But it's interesting to see their plans for now. I think it's certainly unexpected, to say the least. This new model.
Mhm.
Anyway, do you think we want to talk about Zelda this week? I personally don't have a ton to say at the moment about Zelda. I don't know what you're.
I have a couple things. So, first off, there was a update, which
Oh, that's right.
I'm not totally sure. All I know is it finally added dual language, which actually is more than dual language, I guess.
Yeah.
Technically, you can
Yeah, I tested it out. You can do
every language.
pretty much.
Well, every language that's supported by the game,
Right.
which I think the eShop lists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know there's like German, Russian, Spanish. I think there's French.
Yeah, there's French.
Obviously Japanese, English. So a pretty good spread of stuff. I was able to test it out. And really the only caveat is you have to switch that setting on the title screen. You can't switch it, while you're in the actual game, which not a big deal. Aside from that, it works flawlessly.
Yeah, I'd imagine most people who are going to use it probably aren't going to be switching back and forth.
Right. The only reason that was for me is like I wanted to, hear different languages kind of in rapid succession in the memories. But obviously, from a practical standpoint, it makes sense.
Wanted to hear Zelda crying in every language again.
Mm-hmm. Well, I did do the Japanese crying. I haven't heard the other cries yet. Actually, and I heard the Spanish cry as well. That was a good one. But Japanese cry was best cry because during that scene, when I watched that scene during the the Switch event. It was the Japanese version, and I got close to tears. Maybe close to tears isn't the right word, but I got goosebumps when I saw that scene during the Switch event. Now, when I watched the memory in English, I didn't really get the same impact, but when I watched it in Japanese, yeah, I nearly cried.
I mean, awkward British Zelda
Right.
isn't like I know I kind of bash dubs a lot, but I don't really have a problem with dubs. But Zelda should not have been British.
Mm.
I don't know why Zelda was cast as British, but it just sounds weird, especially when none of the other characters are.
Right.
Like if it was like Xenoblade where all the characters have British
then
accents, it probably would have been fine. But the fact that it's just Zelda, or even if all the Hylians had British accents, because it would make sense for like the Gorons to have a different accent from Zelda or the Hylians, and the Hylians to be different from the Zoras and all that. But the fact that just Zelda, even the king, I don't think we really hear the king outside of grunts, do we?
Well, no. In the Great Plateau cutscene, when you first talk to him, I think you are already.
Right.
He actually is a little British.
Right, he's kind of Impa's not though.
Impa's not. Yeah, I don't think. Impa's just old. So yeah, but it is definitely nice to have that option. Shame it wasn't there at launch, but I'm kind of very impressed that they added that, and I certainly didn't expect them to. So definitely a cool option. And they talked a little bit about the first expansion as well, which is still coming in summer. So they talked about that new map feature, which is sort of going to track your like footsteps for the past 200 hours in the game, so you can see like what specific areas you haven't been to. There's going to be new items, including an item that helps you hunt down Korok seeds. There's going to be an ability to set up like one warp point anywhere, which is like, I guess that's kind of cool. I mean, there's already tons of warp points with all the shrines, but I guess it's kind of nice, I guess.
Well, you could set a warp point to directly next to the Blood Moon place now.
Oh, that's smart, yeah. I would also probably choose to set one. Well, this is very lazy of me, but in Hateno Village, there's a shrine sort of near your house, but like it's not right outside your house. I would want to set one like right outside my house, because it's annoying. If I ever want to go there, it's like, oh, I have to kind of teleport then trek over. I'll just go to my house, So, pretty cool stuff.
You can also get the true power of the Master Sword.
Oh yes, whatever that is.
And hard mode, which increases the rank of enemies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people. I know this was announced back when the DLC was first announced, but I don't think people's complaint with Breath of the Wild was it was too easy.
No, not really. No,
especially the beginning.
I guess the one thing I would say is that as people have advanced, you get so overpowered with your gear. I think it'll be actually a pretty welcome change. Like I can say for me at least, like the only enemies that are even a remote challenge for me at this point are like the white/silver grade, um, aside from Lionel's. So if
Basically, just anything that has a health bar is still
right,
kind of annoying. It's like
yeah.
health bar on the top of the screen.
Oh yeah. Oh, you mean in terms of like mini boss type stuff
Yeah,
or
like
whatever
the
overall
can't
bosses. Yeah.
remember, like the sand worm
Right.
slug thing.
Yeah.
Moldu.
Molduga.
That's it, Molduga.
Yeah.
Those things. I mean, they're fairly easy to beat still. I don't think I've ever died to one, but they're still kind of annoying.
Yeah, I think it would be cool if there was so it said they're like increase the rank of existing ones. I guess it would also be cool if they added a new rank for, like bokoblins and moblins and all them. Like, you have silver, so maybe a gold tier or something. Just a thought. The thing I like that they're doing, if you saw the screenshot, they're going to be adding like floating platforms as well, with like enemies and treasure, which kind of reminds me of like the islands in Wind Waker, actually. And I guess you'll either have to fly from a peak or use Rivali's Gale, it's called, right?
Yeah.
In order to get them. So that's another. I personally think that's a cooler tidbit than increasing the difficulty. I still wish they would have added a hunger mechanic, but what can you do? That just would have been an interesting feature.
As long as you could turn it off. I hate hunger mechanics in games.
Right. So yeah, I think that's about it for Zelda. Again, this DLC is still slated for summer. We didn't get a specific release date, but I was glad to hear them talk about it. I was hoping to see it in the last Direct, but better now than, say, at E3. So sounds cool.
If they'll actually do it's available now thing at E3.
Oh, that would be fun.
That's technically summer. I mean, it's a little before, but
right.
It's not like people will complain that, oh, you released it.
Yeah.
I think
a week early.
What day is E3? June 16th?
I don't even know. I don't remember.
I think it's June 16th. So, like, no one's going to be like, oh, you released it like 5 days early. How dare you, Nintendo?
So, yeah, hopefully we'll get something like that. And maybe at E3, maybe if it even releases, like, maybe they don't talk about it at E3 at all and it releases, in July or something. Maybe
they'll probably show it at least at E3.
Right, yeah. I'm personally more eager for Pack 2 just because, we'll get new story stuff apparently. But that's not coming for a while, so I'm going to have to be patient.
Even if it's not, like, shown in the Direct thing, they'll probably show it at Trios Live.
That's a good point, yeah. I can't see them not, just because of how big of a game this has been for them,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's about it for Zelda. I think we covered, because we covered the language update as well as DLC updates. Game is obviously doing very well sales-wise, like attach rate-wise. So something I'm actually curious about, which I don't think they've spoken about, is like, if they're able, I wonder if they'll report like an attach rate in terms of DLC, like what % of people who bought the game have already, I guess you could say, pre-ordered the expansion. I'd be curious to see that, and maybe compare that, because obviously, like for me, in retrospect, it wasn't really worth buying early, because all I got was like, there were 3 chests on the Great Plateau. 2 of them were just ores that I found a ton of later in the game. One is that sweatshirt, which I haven't worn except for when I got it. It's like cute to have, but it's not really practical. You can't even upgrade it. It's only 1 defense.
Wear it, play in challenge mode.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other ways to raise challenge. Use traveler's items only.
Just so you could do nudist vegan. That's always an option.
Nudist on a hunger strike.
So yes, certainly, looking forward to the pack. I personally, like I said, I pre-ordered. I don't think I should have. I mean, I guess my logic was, hey, I'm probably going to buy it eventually. May as well get it now to get that bonus stuff. But ultimately, it's not very substantial. I guess it's like a peace of mind knowing, oh, I don't have to buy it when it comes out. But that's a very, doesn't feel very pro-consumer. But nevertheless, looking forward to it. Anything else to add on the DLC?
No.
All right, cool. I think that is our last news for this week, and we'll move on to plugs before getting into our closing.
So, I reviewed Bang Dream, which is
Quality name.
Yeah, it's about these girls that form a band in high school. That's what I thought when I saw that title. I mean, I knew about it before I read the title, so
Well, there you go.
I didn't really have that issue. But I saw it, the title in Japanese, and was like Bangu Dorimu. Okay. And for some reason, I didn't realize it was in English, even though it was an English name, even though it was written in katakana, which should have been obvious. I was trying to figure out what that meant.
Oh, wait.
But yeah, so anyway, I reviewed that. It was, I apologize to any Thai fans because I kind of bashed her the entire review. She basically represented everything I found wrong with the show, so I'm sorry about that. And our poll last week, or 2 weeks ago, do you think it's worth buying a Switch for Mario Kart 8 and Zelda Breath of the Wild? 69% say yes in all cases, 31% say yes if no access to a Wii U, and 0% said no. There were 13 votes. I'm not certain if that was related to wording, because I mean, I know some people might think this way, but I find it really hard to believe that many people would think it's worth buying a Switch for two games that are on the Wii U if you have access to a Wii U, when they might be better versions, but are they $300
Right.
or worth $300 better?
I agree with you. I mean, as much as I lean, like, I think it has to be a wording thing, because I think if you have a Wii U and you have access, like, and you already own Mario Kart 8 and it's like you can get Breath of the Wild, I would say wait unless you're positive that you're going to want Mario Odyssey and Splatoon 2 when they release, just because, as Connor said, like, yeah, there are nicer versions, but I don't know if the upgrade is necessarily worth $300. Again, certainly a nice option if you're going to want those future games, but if you're not positive, I would say just stick with the Wii U versions if you already have a Wii U. It must have just been a wording thing, I would assume.
And this week's question, if you could choose, and I'm going to make sure to include that even though I don't have it here in the doc, if you could choose, would you rather Nintendo stocked the new 2DS XL or the NES Mini? This is what you personally would prefer Nintendo put their resources in. This is not what you think it's better for the company to do.
This is what you want.
Personally want. So I'm going to make sure to emphasize that so we don't have wording issues again, assuming that was a problem last week. It might not have been. No one responded, so I don't know. And yeah, anyway, follow us on VidMe. Subscribe to us on YouTube. You see the same videos on both, so I guess whatever site you prefer. I kind of like VidMe's player better, but like no one uploads there, unfortunately, so I don't really get to use it. Subscribe on iTunes and Google Play Music to listen to the audio versions. I upload them at the same time, but I think they take like half an hour or something to process. Follow us on Twitter. I'm Double31.
I'm at Ash007.
Arms is ArmsMXZ. BlazeKick is BlazeKickTweet. Unleashed is @NetUnleashed, but that account's dead, so don't follow it.
Very dead.
And visit BlazeKick.com, which is not quite as dead as Nin Unleashed, but it might as well be. And see you guys hopefully next week.
Bye-bye.